Thank you for that introduction, Clinton. So Polimetrics was my brainchild, and a lot of hard work went into this. I really couldn't have done it without a great team of developers. Before we dive into how we actually make it work, I want to ask the audience to do me a favor. Could you please raise your hand if you're surprised by the outcome of the 2016 election? Awesome. So let's put it all on the same page. Naturally, I think a lot of people had expectations about an outcome, which were driven by polling data. So this really caused me to consider what makes up the polls. And I went and did some research, and two interesting facts I found. One from Pew Research Center indicates that polling responses are at an all-time low. This is pretty natural. I'm a millennial. I rarely check my mail. I don't answer robocalls, so I would not have responded to that poll. And the second piece of interesting information I found was the increase of academics using the analysis of tweet sentiment to construct predictions. So I really wanted to capture this and come up with an innovative polling solution to track all the primary candidates in this upcoming presidential election for the Republican and Democratic Party. With that being said, I want to pass it over to Dan, who was one of our back-end engineers, and let him talk about the methodology we used to put this project together.
Thank you, Billy. Happy to be here. My name's Dan. I just first wanted to say, coming into this project, I knew it was going to be really data analytical, data science heavy, which is something I'm not really too familiar with until now. And so I knew we needed a really good process. We needed a rock solid data model, and we needed a lot of tweets. So that was all made possible by using Django, the web framework. More specifically, writing some really nifty custom management functions that allowed us to kind of streamline our process that we're really proud of. So the process is threefold. It's the collection, the data cleaning, the data analysis. The collection obviously was using Twitter's fabulous API that allowed us to get like 500,000 tweets over the course of 2 weeks. So that's a lot. It's a good sample size for us to gauge sentiment. And for the analysis, we used a natural language processing toolkit, which is written in Python, and it's called TextBlob. It allowed us to gauge sentiment. But with the analysis, we wanted to go deeper. So we came up with a little formula over there, and I can explain it in deeper detail after this. But it uses something called engagement, which allows us to treat a tweet and give it some weight of importance. So maybe a tweet has more retweets or likes, so that tweet should have a greater kind of weight on the Twitterverse. Yeah, I said that. So, with that said, yeah, I'm going to pass it over to Dennis, the other back-end guy, and he's going to tell us about the data visualization.
Hello, I'm Dennis. So to build off of what Dan said, once we have all of this data, what do we do with it? We had to figure out how to take it from the Twitter API, process it, store it into our PostgreSQL database, and then use Django to filter it, sort it. It's all in UTC, and then we picked Bokeh, which is a visualization library written in Python, to display it in two different ways. So we have the detail graph, which is 2-line graphs, the daily average in the blue, and then the black dotted line is a trend line, so the overall sentiment or the aggregate. On the detail page, we have a bar graph that is an overall comparison, and then the bar graph is interactive, and you can, because it's quite large. So one of the big takeaways from this was how to work as a team, brainstorming on ideas, how to approach challenges and all of these new technologies and different aspects of the project, as well as if anyone is blocked by something, how do we overcome that, really come together as a group. The other thing that we learned was we needed an iterative design process, use Agile, GitHub, Trello, your standard technologies, and just step by step, one foot in front of the other to make sure that it worked every step of the way. And with that said, here is David, the lead front-end guy.
Hey everybody. Hey. I'm Peterson. I help do a lot of the front-end on the website. So in planning our site, we wanted to make sure that the design across all of the pages had a consistent, clean, and straightforward design process. We wanted to make sure that everything that we had on the page would help to frame the back-end technology that we're using on this website, because it is pretty complicated, and it can get pretty convoluted if we let it. And also, like, another big part of our design process and philosophy, I guess, was that we are showing very political data, and we wanted to make sure that we didn't have any inherent bias in how we presented that data. We wanted to make sure that it was, as cleanly brought forward as much as we can. We didn't want to, cross the barrier into, not being impartial about it, which I think is really important. Another big thing with our design process is we used a lot of JavaScript, specifically this library called Scroll Magic, which we put on pretty much every page. And we wanted it to have, it to be very dynamic whenever a user loaded in on the page, so that the page is kind of assembling itself as the page goes down, as you can see with the pictures. Yeah, so over the course of us, designing the website, and kind of piggyback off of what Dennis was saying, is that this is a really tough process. We used a lot of technologies we had no first-hand experience with. So, we would build the site, then we would rebuild it, we would build it again, and then rebuild it. And it was a very iterative process that we learned a whole bunch from, and I think we're much better for it. So, for Polimetrics, we have to ask the question, so what's next? It seems like the future laid before us, especially coming into this 2020 election. It's more important than ever that we have as informed a voter as possible. And Polimetrics, we hope, is a tool that will allow the electorate to make better decisions and more informed decisions. So if anybody would like to learn more about Polimetrics and what we're doing, maybe if you want to see your favorite candidate and how they're polling, just come visit us at the booth after the presentations. Thank you very much, guys.